Friends here, some new faces, and it's always good to be up here in Ithaca. And some of you might be shaking your heads when I say that a little, because you know where my district is, right here in the heart of downtown Ithaca, and we've got a lot of Democrat votes, got a lot of liberal activists, but I just met some great people up here, and I'm appreciative of all the support you've given me across these last 2.5 years that we've been running here. And for those who don't know me, I grew up in the Binghamton area, and I was actually working in manufacturing at IBM during the 90s when jobs were going out. I saw a lot of family and friends lose their jobs. My brother lost his job and moved down to North Carolina. And I know we've got Cornell here and we've got some good jobs, but I think probably almost everybody here out on the patio has a story about a family or a friend who is not here because of the economic situation. I was always skeptical about politics, but I got the political bug when I was in college. I did an internship in Washington and went on to serve for 4 years for a congressman from New Jersey, Christopher Smith. He was the chairman of the Veterans Committee, vice chairman of the International Relations Committee. Saw how to get things done, but also saw what was broken. And it's amazing in the time since I left how those problems in terms of the debt, in terms of things just being out of control in Washington, have gotten worse and worse and worse. And I've been back with my family here in the Binghamton area. I have a 3-year-old son now, and been teaching the last couple years. We decided to make the race last time, and we knew it was going to be a hard race. We've got an 8-county district starting in beautiful Ithaca here through Binghamton, through the Hudson Valley, but I had in the back of my mind, and the first day I talked to Mike Sigler, I even told him this, we run to win this time, but I know it may take more than one time, and I believe I could do it. I believe I can make a difference in Washington, so we're back here for a second run, and I think things are looking a lot better. I want to talk about our platform that we're laying out to the voters here, and some of the key issues we're focusing on, and our path to victory, and what you can do to help here, and then just take any questions. But let's just think for a minute about the current financial situation in Washington. I remember when I was a congressional aide 10 years ago, writing a letter saying, wow, we're spending $2 trillion a year, and I think the debt was almost up to $5 trillion. And look at where we're at today. $12 trillion in national debt. The Office of Management and Budget said we have trillion-dollar deficits as far as the eye can see. And what I tell people is I've had enough. And I think Americans have had enough. If you look at the healthcare situation, I did a town hall meeting in August of last year when things were getting hot. I've talked to as many people involved with healthcare, people struggling with small business to pay insurance, physicians, people without insurance. I've learned as much as I can, and it's amazing now that this bill's passed. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, I don't know what was in it, but just the whole process, from the Cornhusker kickback to the Louisiana Purchase to all this arm twisting, this was just a mess, and people seem just disgusted with it. And with the whole healthcare situation, I know it needs to be fixed, but the way that they did it, forcing people to buy insurance, all these backroom deals, the largest cumulative tax increase in our nation's history that we are going to have to pay for our children and our grandchildren, and the cuts in Medicare, which quite frankly are important to a lot of seniors in this district. I tell people I've had enough with the healthcare mess. And then you look at the first issue I talked about, families leaving New York, and the tax burden. And I know Albany's causing a lot of our problems, but the federal government is adding on to it. And you look at healthcare, the stress it's putting on business. Corporations are talking about layoffs already. Small businesses don't know how they're going to deal with this bill. Look at what's in the hopper here, the so-called Employee Free Choice Act, which it would give unprecedented power to labor unions, and it wouldn't let people follow their conscience and not join labor. You look at cap and trade, and I know we've got to be stewards of the environment, but this would put such stress, I believe, on business. When we're at 10% unemployment, I've had enough with the job losses, and I found myself saying I've had enough time and time again, and I think we've got a theme here. We're telling voters, have you had enough? If you've had enough, vote Phillips for Congress. If you haven't had enough, send Maurice Hinchey down again. If you think things are going well down there, but look at the national polls right now. Some polls are showing 15% of Americans approve of the job Congress is doing. And so I feel like I'm not just running against Maurice Hinchey, I'm running against Washington and all the mess down there that we've all had enough with. In terms of our platform, I'm an American history teacher, and I really believe we're at a critical point for our nation right now with all this out of control spending. And we're offering what I call a bold plan for America. And I think we've got to shoot big for our plan here, but I think it starts with the spending. We all talk about tax relief, we all talk about job creation. I think that's going to come through tax relief, but we've got to get the spending out of control. And our bold plan from America focuses on cutting waste in Washington. I've got 4 big points that I want to focus on in Washington that I think would save billions in waste. One, and I talked about this on the last campaign, and I've talked to Henry. He worked on a version of this right here in Ithaca. But Ronald Reagan said, hey, we want to scour the federal government for waste and inefficiencies. He got some business leaders together. It was called the Grace Commission. They went in, they found that 1/3 of federal spending was wasteful and inefficient. They made recommendations for cutting it. And unfortunately, most of those recommendations were never enacted upon. But just imagine that today, if we can get 1/3 in savings out of $4 trillion that we're spending each year. That would be fantastic. There's a lot of talk about the Tea Party movement here going on. I think one of the great things, being an American history teacher, is it talks about getting back to constitutional principles. What does the Constitution say the role of the federal government should be? National defense, immigration law, which we're not doing a great job on, and post office, a few other services here. I think the time is ripe right now to start saying, hey, let's look at some of these agencies. There's 15 executive branch agencies. There's hundreds of independent agencies. What function are they performing? Are they absolutely necessary for the American people? We need to consolidate. Businesses are cutting back. Americans are cutting back. Our bold plan calls for consolidating 15 cabinet agencies down to 8. And that would take departments like agriculture, energy, and the interior and put them into one agency of land and resources. And I think that's a way that we could save a lot of money. And look at the individual agencies. If you go to their websites, we've got a secretary, we've got undersecretaries, we've got assistant secretaries, we've got DASCs. I didn't know what a DASC was when I was in Washington. A DASC is a deputy assistant secretary. There's so many levels of bureaucracy in the federal government right now. We have to cut back. We can cut back. New York State keeps hurting. Northern Virginia and Maryland, they're doing really well with all these government jobs that we're paying for, and it's just time to cut back right now. Third area, we got to roll back what I call the Obama spending spree. I know a lot of people focus on the stimulus, and unfortunately, by and large, that money's gone or being allocated out the door. But look at some of the other things this president did in these economic times. Why did commerce get a 40% increase in its budget? Why did agriculture get a 20% increase? If we could just go back to 2008 spending levels, those would be huge cuts right there. Then we look at scouring through waste. Then we look at the inefficiencies. When I get to Washington, one other thing I want to look at to try to get our country back on track in terms of the deficit is unused federal properties, vacant lots, and military bases. There's an estimate that there's $1.2 trillion in unused federal properties out there right now. And you know, if you were a land lord, an owner, you had rental properties, and you were in difficult economic times, you'd be selling them, you'd be leasing them. We're sitting on all this land here. We need to start utilizing it right now. If we do 4 of those 4 things, I think we could save billions of dollars. We could get the tax cuts for small businesses, for individuals, for seniors, cut the Social Security tax, cut the capital gains tax, cut corporate taxes across the board. That will get this country going again, and that'll create the jobs that we need. And so that's what we're offering in our campaign here. And I guess then the question is, how are you going to do it, and what did you learn from your last race? Well, we learned a lot. We met a lot of people. We traveled around quite a bit. I know I got to at least meet some of you, and we spent a lot of time in the Hudson Valley. We actually did really well in the Binghamton area. Given the year, we had 43% of the vote, a very difficult year on a shoestring budget. We believe we could go over 50 there. And in Binghamton right now, and you're hearing it up here, the Lockheed Martin cuts are just painful. And so the sentiment right now for Maurice Hinchey, being the federal person with all these job losses, is not great down there right now. We believe we're going to go over 50% in the southern tier. We're working hard in the Hudson Valley, and it was a very tough year, just like it was in Ithaca in 2008, but 2009 we saw big change. A lot of Republicans winning local elections in 2009. So the numbers are there, and I was mentioning just in terms of strategy, we actually have the precinct numbers already studied for most of the precincts in our district. We're looking at our strong precinct. I can't knock on every door in this district, that's for sure, but we're going in our areas of strength. We're trying to turn out the base. We're going to get the independents. The independents are coming back to us, and that's what Scott Brown did in Massachusetts. Fundraising is critically important, and that's finally coming along for us. We have a good group of Binghamton finance team members, and they're helping out. How can I get 5 or 10 high dollar donors? But our fundraising, raising $160,000 so far, I tell you the majority of it is $25, $50, $100. We're doing a lot of small meet and greet fundraisers, and if anyone's interested in hosting one, and I know some of you are out of our district, but that's the way we're going right now, and we're building momentum, we're building steam. We feel like we've got a good message. We feel like we've got the year right now, and we're on our way here, and hopefully